Welcome into Deep Dive Secret! In countless American homes, a familiar pattern plays out quietly, often dismissed as harmless or inevitable. Two children sit at the same dinner table, raised by the same parents, living under the same roof yet experiencing entirely different emotional realities. One feels noticed. The other feels overlooked. One learns confidence early. The other learns competition. Over time, these subtle differences harden into roles, expectations, and lifelong patterns. This is not chaos. It is a system.
Sibling rivalry is commonly explained as simple jealousy or personality conflict.
But psychology reveals something far more structured and predictable beneath the surface.
There is a hidden system shaping how siblings compete, bond, resent,
or distance themselves, a system that operates quietly inside American families, classrooms, workplaces, and even boardrooms decades later. The question is not whether sibling rivalry exists.
The deeper question is why it takes the same forms again and again across different families, cultures, and generations.
Consider a familiar scenario. In a suburban U.S. household, two siblings grow up less than 3 years apart.
One is consistently praised for academic success. The other becomes known as the social one or the difficult one. Neither role was consciously assigned, yet both children quickly learn what is expected of them.
Over time, those expectations shape identity, behavior, and what appears to be personality is often adaptation.
Differentiation is the unconscious strategy siblings use to reduce direct competition for limited reasons.
Approval
And security.
When two children compete for the same emotional rewards, the family system subtly pushes them to specialize. One becomes the achiever. Another becomes the rebel.
Another becomes invisible.
These roles stabilize the family environment, but they come at a long-term psychological cost. In the United States, this system is amplified by cultural pressures.
And performance
Sports rankings, college admissions. These external scoreboards intensify internal family competition.
When resources such as time, praise, or emotional availability are perceived as scarce, rivalry becomes strategic rather than emotional. This is where the hidden system emerges.
Sibling rivalry is not driven primarily by dislike between siblings.
It is driven by perceived inequality.
The human brain, especially in childhood, is highly sensitive to fairness.
Developmental psychology shows that children as young as 3 track how attention and rewards are distributed. When patterns repeat, who gets praised, who gets corrected, who gets rescued, the brain builds a hierarchy. Birth order plays a critical role here, but not in the simplistic way pop psychology suggests. Birth order is not destiny. It is context.
Firstborn children often experience a period of undivided attention, followed by sudden displacement.
Later-born children enter a system where roles are already occupied.
Each child adapts strategically.
These adaptations are logical responses to family dynamics, not inherent traits.
The overlooked detail is that parents rarely notice this system forming.
From the adult perspective, love feels equal.
From the child's perspective, love is measured in moments, reactions, and comparisons.
A common misconception is that rivalry fades with age. Research shows the opposite, reshaping sibling relationships around money, caregiving, inheritance, and status. In the U.S., where families are geographically dispersed and aging parents rely heavily on adult children, unresolved sibling dynamics resurfaced with force. This is why adult siblings can cooperate professionally with strangers, yet struggle emotionally with each other.
The rivalry is not about the present. It is about a system learned early and never updated.
Another misunderstood aspect is parental neutrality.
Many parents believe avoiding overt favoritism prevents rivalry. But psychology shows that inconsistency, not favoritism alone,
fuels competition.
When children cannot predict how attention and approval are distributed, they compete harder. This system does not only affect families, it quietly shapes American workplaces.
Studies on organizational behavior show that sibling-like competition patterns reappear among colleagues
who share similar roles and reports to the same authority figure. The family becomes the first training ground for navigating hierarchy, scarcity, and recognition.
The deeper insight is this: sibling rivalry is not a flaw in the family.
It is a functional system that helps families operate under constraints.
But systems optimized for stability are not optimized for emotional health.
Understanding this system changes how rivalry is interpreted.
The goal is no longer to eliminate conflict, but to recognize the structural forces creating it.
When rivalry is seen as a predictable outcome of hidden rules rather than personal failure, new solutions become possible.
As this exploration continues, the focus will shift from surface behavior to underlying mechanisms. How roles are assigned,
how comparisons are reinforced, how small moments accumulate into lifelong narratives.
The most important question to hold on to is this: if sibling rivalry follows predictable patterns, what else in adult life might be shaped by roles learned long before conscious choice?
How the system of sibling rivalry actually works. Sibling rivalry does not emerge randomly.
It follows a step-by-step psychological system that unfolds in predictable stages shaped by biology, family structure, and American cultural norms. To understand rivalry, the focus must shift away from emotions and toward mechanics.
At the foundation of the system is a simple constraint. Parental resources are finite. Time, attention, patience, emotional energy, and approval are limited, even in affluent U.S. households. These resources cannot be evenly distributed at every moment.
Children instinctively sense this scarcity long before they can articulate it.
This triggers the first stage of the system: comparison.
Children do not evaluate themselves in isolation.
Developmental psychology shows that children primarily understand their worth relationally. They ask, often unconsciously, who gets praised? Who gets corrected? Who gets comforted faster?
In American households, where verbal feedback and performance-based praise are common, these comparisons are constant and highly visible.
The second stage is role experimentation.
When two siblings compete for the same resource, such as praise for academic success, competition becomes costly.
One child may lose repeated. To reduce emotional loss, the brain adapts.
It searches for a niche where competition is lower and rewards are more attainable. This is not conscious choice.
It is strategic adaptation.
One child may double down on achievement.
Another may disengage from academics and invest in humor, defiance, or independence. Parents often misinterpret this as personality expression. In reality, it is role differentiation. Differentiation
Stabilizes the family system. Each child becomes predictable.
Parents respond more efficiently. Conflict decreases on the surface.
But internally, identities harden around these roles.
In U.S. families, this process is accelerated by external evaluation systems. Schools rank students. Sports assign positions.
Social media amplifies comparison.
When parents reinforce these distinctions, often unintentionally roles become reinforced across environments.
The third stage is reinforcement through feedback loops.
Once a child occupies a role, adult reactions begin to follow patterns. The responsible child is trusted more.
The difficult child is monitored more closely.
Over time, each response confirms the role. Psychologists call this the self-fulfilling prophecy effect. Importantly, this is not favoritism in the traditional sense. It is consistency.
Parents respond consistently to past behavior.
Children interpret this as preference. Here lies a major misconception.
Many believe rivalry is caused by unequal love. Research consistently shows it is caused by unequal interpretation. Parents may feel love equally, but children experience love.
The fourth stage is hierarchy formation.
Every family develops an implicit hierarchy. Who leads, who follows, who negotiates, who withdraws. This hierarchy is rarely discussed, but constantly enforced through daily interactions. Who speaks first? Who interrupts? Who is believed during conflict? In American culture, which values assertiveness and leadership, these hierarchies often align with confidence rather than cooperation.
One sibling becomes dominant. Another becomes accommodating.
These roles are efficient, but psychologically expensive. The fifth stage is emotional memory, consolidation. Neuroscience shows that emotionally charged experiences are encoded more deeply than neutral ones. Repeated moments of perceived unfairness or comparison become emotionally tagged memories.
Over years, these memories form narratives. I'm always second. I have to outperform to be noticed.
I don't matter unless I cause disruption. These narratives persist into adulthood, long after the original context disappears.
This explains why adult siblings often regress emotionally when reunited. The system reactivates.
Old roles resurfaced.
Rational adults suddenly feel competitive, defensive, or invisible.
The trigger is not the sibling, it is the unresolved system. American parents often balance long work hours, financial stress, and limited support networks. Under stress, parents rely more heavily on cognitive shortcuts. They default to established roles because they reduce decision-making load. This unintentionally locks the system in place. Another overlooked mechanism is parental conflict management style. Families that avoid conflict often suppress rivalry rather than resolve it. Suppressed rivalry does not disappear. It goes underground, resurfacing later as emotional distance or passive competition. Contrast this with families that externalize conflict openly but predictably.
When rules are clear and reactions are consistent, rivalry is less toxic. Predictability reduces competition.
Ambiguity.
Increases it. Visualization helps here.
Imagine a flow diagram. Scarcity. Comparison differentiation. Reinforcement. Hierarchy. Narrative. Once the loop completes, it's breaking the system requires intervention at the structural level, not the emotional level. Telling siblings to get along addresses none of the underlying mechanics. Addressing predictability, role, flexibility, and perception of fairness.
Research shows rivalry peaks not based on age difference, but on overlap and developmental stages.
Two children competing for similar recognition at the same time experienced more rivalry than siblings with different life focuses. Gender stereotypes also shape differentiation in U.S. households. Boys are often rewarded for assertiveness. Girls are often rewarded for compliance. These rewards shape rivalry patterns differently, but the underlying system remains the same. Perhaps the most counterintuitive insight is this. Rivalry often increases in families that value equality the most.
When parents strive to treat children exactly the same, they ignore contextual differences. Children perceive fairness not as sameness, but as proportional responsiveness.
The system does not ask for equal treatment.
It asks for understandable treatment.
Understanding sibling rivalry as a system reframes responsibility.
Children are not flawed.
Parents are not malicious. The system emerges naturally under constraints.
but once understood, it can be redesigned.
The next stage of this exploration moves beyond formation into consequences, how this system silently shapes adult relationships.
Career, behavior, self-worth, and even parenting styles decades later.
When the system follows you into adulthood,
Once the sibling rivalry system is established in childhood, it does not remain contained within the family home.
it travels.
What begins as a childhood adaptation gradually becomes a lifelong operating manual for navigating competition, authority, and self-worth. The first major escalation occurs when siblings enter adolescence. During this stage, identity formation accelerates.
According to developmental psychology,
Adolescence is when individuals consolidate beliefs about who they are and how they fit into social hierarchies. For siblings, the family hierarchy becomes the default template. Roles that were once flexible harden into identities. The responsible sibling becomes hyper-responsible.
the invisible sibling becomes self-reliant to the point of emotional isolation.
The rebel sibling doubles down on opposition, often mistaking resistance for independence.
These identities feel authentic, but they are often defensive structures built to survive earlier competition. In the US, this escalation is intensified by institutional sorting. High schools track students into academic tiers. Colleges rank applicants.
Sports systems reward specialization. These external systems reward the very traits siblings develop to differentiate themselves.
The achiever is rewarded with credentials.
The non-achiever is quietly filtered out. This creates the illusion that childhood roles were destiny, not adaptation. The second escalation emerges in early adulthood when siblings leave the shared environment.
Physical separation does not dissolve rivalry, it freezes Italiano.
Without regular interaction, unresolved narratives are preserved rather than challenged. Each sibling carries a static image of the other, often outdated but emotionally charged. Reunions, holidays, weddings, graduations reactivate the system instantly. Neuroscience explains this through state-dependent memory.
When people re-enter environments associated with early emotional learning, the brain retrieves old patterns automatically. Adult reasoning weakens.
Emotional reflexes dominate.
This is why adult siblings can feel competent and confident in public life, yet feel strangely diminished or reactive around each other.
The third escalation appears in career behavior. Organizational psychology consistently finds that individuals unconsciously recreate sibling dynamics in professional settings. Those who grew up competing for approval often seek validation from authority figures. Those who are overlooked often resist hierarchy or disengage emotionally from institutions. In America, workplaces which reward visibility, self-promotion, and competition, these patterns are amplified.
The oldest sibling archetype often emerges as the overfunctioner, reliable, exhausted, and quietly resentful.
The youngest sibling archetype may become innovative but authority-averse. These are not stereotypes. They are statistically observable tendencies.
Crucially, these behaviors are not personality traits.
They are strategies learned in a system of perceived scarcity. The fourth escalation is emotional comparison in adulthood.
Sibling rivalry does not end with childhood achievements.
Eat, mutatis, careers, marriages, income, home ownership, parenting styles, each becomes a new metric. In the US, where success is highly visible and often publicly displayed, comparison becomes relentless.
Social media intensifies this effect.
Platforms turn private milestones into public benchmarks. For siblings already primed to compare, this creates continuous low-grade rivalry, even without direct contact.
One sibling's success can feel like another's failure, not because of jealousy, but because of unresolved hierarchy.
The fifth escalation escalation occurs during family illness, aging parents, financial stress, and inheritance decisions reactivate sibling systems with exceptional force.
Research in family systems therapy shows that caregiving roles often default to childhood hierarchy.
The responsible sibling takes charge. The distant sibling is criticized. Old resentments resurface under moral language. In the U.S., where elder care is fragmented and expensive, these situations place enormous pressure on sibling relationships.
Practical decisions become symbolic battles over recognition, fairness, and worth. Money becomes particularly volatile.
They are about validation. Who sacrificed more? The most damaging consequence of the system is not conflict. It is emotional distortion. Sibling rivalry shapes how individuals interpret neutral events.
Praise feels conditional.
Attention feels scarce. Authority feels competitive. Even love can feel transactional. These distortions quietly shape romantic relationships, friendships, and parenting styles.
Many adults unknowingly parent from their sibling role.
Overfunctioners become controlling parents. Under-recognized siblings become permissive parents. Rebels become inconsistent parents without awareness. The system replicates across generations. Another overlooked consequence is emotional cutoff. Some siblings avoid each other entirely, believing distance equals peace.
But avoidance does not resolve hierarchy.
It preserves it unchallenged. Emotional cutoff often masks unresolved rivalry rather than healing it. Perhaps the most misunderstood outcome is success. High-achieving siblings are often praised as proof that rivalry worked. But research shows that externally successful individuals shaped by rivalry often experience chronic anxiety, imposter syndrome, or emotional numbness. The system trained them to perform, not to feel secure. The cost of the system is paid quietly, over decades.
Importantly, none of these outcomes are inevitable.
But without conscious intervention, systems persist. The brain prefers familiar patterns over healthy ones. The next phase of this exploration focuses on disruption. How awareness, structural shifts, and deliberate role flexibility can weaken rivalry's grip and prevent its transmission. Understanding, interrupting, and redesigning the rivalry system. By now, it is clear that sibling rivalry is far more than occasional squabbles or fleeting jealousy. It is a structured psychological system established in childhood, reinforced by family dynamics, and amplified by American cultural norms.
The stakes extend beyond childhood. They shape adult identity, relationships, career, behavior, and even the next generation.
The first key lesson is recognition. Sibling rivalry is predictable, not personal.
Observing the system objectively allows families and individuals to separate emotion from mechanics.
Rather than blaming one child or one parent, it becomes possible to see patterns: scarcity perception, role differentiation, feedback loops, and hierarchy formation.
Naming these processes reduces the unconscious charge and begins the path toward intervention.
The second lesson is the power of predictability. Children and adults alike respond to consistent, understandable patterns. Parents, caregivers,
And siblings do not need to strive for absolute equality, a statistical impossibility, but for clarity.
when rules, expectations, and reactions are consistent, the system loses its leverage. It weakens under structure. Childhood differentiation serves a practical purpose, but rigid adherence into adulthood can cause long-term tension. Families that encourage siblings to explore multiple identities, competitive yet collaborative, create resilience. Practical strategies include rotating responsibilities, recognizing different forms of contribution, and reframing traditional roles. For example, acknowledging both academic achievement and artistic or social contributions prevents narrow hierarchies from solidifying.
The fourth lesson involves conscious perception of fairness.
Perceived inequity fuels rivalry far more than actual inequity. Parents and adults can reduce emotional competition by clearly explaining why different decisions are made. For example, giving one sibling more supervision due to age, skill level, or current stressors rather.
Then favoritism helps maintain trust and reduces resentment.
The fifth lesson is emotional literacy. Families that encourage verbalization of feelings, reflection on past patterns, and understanding of triggers provide tools to interrupt the cycle. Simple practices, such as naming the moment a rivalry trigger appears or acknowledging a sibling's perspective, transform reactive behavior into proactive resolution.
A practical example in the U.S. context. Consider a family where two siblings,
one academically accomplished and one artistically gifted, often compare success. Parents can structure predictable attention, one-on-one discussions focused on each child's strengths, recognition of effort over outcome, and shared family projects that require collaboration. This both diffuses comparison and strengthens bonds.
beyond family, these lessons extend into adult life.
Awareness of one's sibling role allows individuals to interpret professional and social competition more objectively.
Recognizing self-limiting patterns such as overfunctioning, withdrawal, or resistance creates opportunities for conscious behavioral adjustments. Adult sibling relationships can be renegotiated, shifting from defensive roles to mutual respect and shared purpose. Importantly, the system is not inherently negative. Its emergence reflects the brain's natural strategy for resource management and emotional regulation.
When managed consciously, the same mechanisms that once fueled rivalry can strengthen collaboration.
Resilience and empathy. The hidden system that once divided can be repurposed to unite. Another practical takeaway is preparation for multi-generational dynamics. Awareness of how childhood roles influence parenting styles equips adults to avoid unintentionally replicating rivalry with their own children. Overfunctioning parents can deliberately allow others to lead. Under-recognized siblings can intentionally provide attention and guidance. Understanding the mechanics allows for conscious redesign. In conclusion, sibling rivalry is a nuanced and deeply embedded system. By understanding its stages, scarcity perception, comparison, role differentiation, reinforcement, hierarchy, and emotional narrative, families and individuals gain the power to anticipate patterns, mitigate conflict, and build healthier long-term relationships.
The key is conscious engagement rather than avoidance.
Recognizing, predicting, and intervening in these systems transforms rivalry from a source of covert tension into a framework for structured growth. This knowledge empowers both parents and adult siblings to move beyond automatic reactions, redirect emotional energy, and create family dynamics built on understanding, fairness, and emotional security.
As we reach the conclusion of this exploration into the psychology of sibling rivalry,
It becomes clear that understanding the hidden systems behind human behavior offers far more than insight. It provides actionable tools for real-life transformation. The patterns that begin in childhood ripple outward, shaping adult identity, relationships, and even professional behavior. Recognizing these patterns allows viewers not only to interpret their own experiences more clearly, but also to actively design healthier family dynamics. This video has uncovered the mechanics of sibling rivalry, the finite nature of parental resources, the role of comparison and differentiation, the self-reinforcing hierarchies, and the long-lasting narratives that follow siblings into adulthood. By framing rivalry as a structured system rather than random conflict, families and individuals gain clarity, empathy.
For those seeking to apply these lessons, begin with observation.
Notice the roles that each sibling occupies and how those roles were formed. Track patterns of reinforcement and consider where predictability and fairness can be increased. Explore role flexibility both in childhood and adulthood and consciously reframe interactions to reduce competition and build cooperation. Awareness is the first step toward change. Deliberate action is the second.
Understanding hidden systems, like sibling rivalry, sharpens perception of other relational and organizational dynamics. It illuminates how early social hierarchies, scarcity perception,
And reinforced roles continue to influence professional environments.
By seeing these patterns, viewers gain a powerful lens for personal and systemic transformation.
This content is brought to you by Deep Dive Secrets, a channel dedicated to revealing the hidden systems that shape everyday life in America. Our mission is to uncover the unseen rules, behaviors, and structures that quietly govern human interaction, empowering you to navigate them with knowledge and insight. If this exploration into the psychology of sibling rivalry resonated with you,
take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on future deep dives.
share this with friends or family members who might gain new understanding of their own experiences. And comment below with your observations, questions, or personal stories about sibling dynamics. Your engagement fuels more in-depth analysis and uncovers new hidden systems to explore.
Thank you for joining us in this journey into one of the most pervasive and subtly influential systems in human life.
By studying sibling rivalry not as random conflict, but as a structured system.
We uncover patterns that can guide personal growth, family harmony, and self. Remember, the systems that shape our earliest relationships continue to operate quietly.
But understanding them gives you the power to navigate them intentionally.